morning, good afternoon, good evening from around the world. This is Morogi.
And this is Fatu. Welcome to our podcast.
So, welcome to Hapakule, where we talk about things here and there, lives here and there, time here and there. And today we have special guests who will be telling you about parenting in Japan. Have you
Yeah,
ever wondered how kids are brought up in Japan?
I'm quite excited for today's episode because as a woman, I want to have kids someday. So maybe it will be in Japan or some other place. So I would love to learn about how it's like bringing up a kid in Japan. So yeah.
Yeah, so today we have very special people. They'll be telling you their journeys as parents in Japan. And when they introduce themselves, you'll understand why we invited each of them here. So we have two mothers and a father. We'll start introductions with the mothers. Please tell us your name, your country, how many kids you have, if it's okay with you, and maybe their ages to give some kind of perspective to our listeners.
Okay, my name is Kerry. I live in Japan. I'm a student, and I'm a mom to two boys, a 16-year-old and a 9-year-old. So I've lived in Japan for about 4 years now. Yeah.
My name is Ashley. I'm from Zimbabwe. I've lived in Japan for 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. I'm to a 2-year-old girl. She's with me today. Yeah, so nice to meet you all.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. And finally, the gentleman.
Oh, good. I like that, gentleman. Uh, Francis, sorry, I'm on my way to work today. Uh, you can call me Fox. I'm dad to four boys,
Nice.
and
Wow.
yeah, ranging between 16 and what, 6, I guess,
Okay.
and somewhere in between. Yeah, I'll be talking about them in a while. So you throw the questions, and we'll see how I can best answer you guys.
All right.
All right, cheers.
I mean, we appreciate all of you taking time to come talk to us. I'm sure you guys are all busy being parents in Japan, so we understand. I hope it will be a lot of inconvenience. But yeah, so
We'll start with Ashley.
yeah,
Ashley has a very interesting story, but she'll be telling us about that. So, Ashley, you came to Japan with the bundle of joy inside your tummy. Yeah. So, please, when you got onto that plane and you're coming to Japan, what were your fears? I mean, you were coming here by yourself, you know one, you were pregnant, you were going to start school. What was running through your mind?
Uh, okay. It was an overwhelming experience for me. I was pregnant. I was 4 months pregnant, but I was so slim. I didn't look pregnant at all.
I remember when you told me, I was shocked. I was like,
So I was so scared about, first of all, the language barrier, and I was so scared. How was I going to talk to the doctors? Like the whole process of registering, like the pregnancy, going for doctor's visits, and all. It was so overwhelming just to think about it. But I think I was so brave by coming here.
superwoman, I tell you.
When I arrived here, things started for days because I found information on how to register the pregnancy and go to the hospital. So after that, I think it was quite easy. And also, I found Fatu. So it felt like I wasn't alone anymore because he was with me every step of the way. So in
yeah,
summary, that's kind of my story, but there's more to it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it's my personal person. We came to Japan together the same day, and the first time meeting her, I just had some sort of like connection like with her somehow. So, and the first, I think she told me the second day I met her, or the first day that she was pregnant. I was so surprised. I was like, wow, like, hmm. But like it was easy to be with her. So yeah.
I see.
Mm.
What about you, Carrie? When you were coming to Japan, I mean, what were some of your fears and, for raising African children in Japan?
In Japan. I think I had about a bit of discrimination issues in
Mm,
Japanese schools. Yeah, so I was worried about that. And it's culturally so different to raise kids in Japan. Okay, for example, in Kenya, we have maids, like
Yeah,
you don't,
everywhere
yeah,
in Africa.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so you don't do so much. You're not required to do so much for your kids. So for me, it was quite difficult to adjust to that, like to be in a role where I do everything for my kids. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Yeah.
Boss
Hmm.
has a very interesting story he's going to tell us right now. In your case,
I
what
like
were
the way
your fears?
I like the way you cue that to be a very interesting story, and I have to make it interesting.
It's
So,
interesting for the rest of us because your situation is a little bit different, and maybe our
yes.
listeners will some may or may not gravitate towards it, but for many Africans who are in your situation, they would really like to know, or who are even thinking of, starting a family the way you did, might really pick a lot from you.
Mm.
Okay, yeah, my situation is just a little different in that I didn't come I got married when I got to Japan. So I
Mm,
had my kids after I'd stayed in Japan for a while, so I'd known my way around.
mm,
But of course, the experience of having a family, having kids in Japan was something new, but it was new for me in Japan. So, in a nutshell, I guess, I think as Kerry said, you have to fend for your families from day one.
mm,
So there's no way the dad can abscond or not be part of raising the kids.
Mhm.
So I've been there since the changing the diapers, feeding the babies at night. Until now, it's just become part of me. Cook for them, take them everywhere. I'm the maid. We share that, of course, with my wife. And it has become so easy for me. It's
Okay.
hard, but it's easy in that now I don't. Whenever I go back to Kenya, sometimes I don't even. I wonder why my friends cannot even look after their kids.
mm.
So in that sense, I don't know. It's made me closer to my kids. We're just more friends. Of course, you're a parent and a friend at the same time.
Mm,
But when I look at or compare myself to my colleagues back at home, I kind of feel like they're kind of distant from their kids.
mm,
They don't know what's going on. They don't know what ticks them because they leave most of their work to the maid, or
Mm.
the
True.
house help if it's a boy at home.
mm, mm.
So in that sense, I don't know. I guess it's worked out well for me in terms of being close to your kids.
I see. Well,
Hmm.
my
But
next question.
uh,
Sorry, go on.
of course, the difficulties in raising them. Of course, you don't have time for yourself at all.
See. So,
Mm.
as an individual, you're raising pleasure. How is that a little bit different? Like, what have been some of the specific, challenges you've met? Because Terry talked about discrimination. She was worried about discrimination. What about
Uh,
in your case?
of course, yeah, I guess the discrimination, that's a very intriguing, intriguing, but it's quite hard. My kids face discrimination because one, when you look at them, even if their mother is a Japanese,
Mm.
you can tell that they are what they call them half. I like to call them 200%. Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So yeah, as they grew up, it's amazing because in nursery school, when they're in nursery school, there was no discrimination at all.
Mm.
So in that the kids, I think kids are just pure.
Yeah.
So they don't know who is different or what color is different. But as
Yeah.
they get older into primary school, I don't know whether they get the influence from the parents. But now you start having cases of them calling out my kids because of the color of their
Mm.
skin or because of their hair. They'll tell something silly like, "Oh, you look like poo poo." It's called poo poo,
Wow.
for lack of a better word. All
Okay.
right, but so whenever I had these cases, and the teachers call me, "Hey, your son was told this. He didn't feel good about it." So the first thing I tell my son about not to discriminate against other people first. Okay, I
Mm.
don't go overly protective to them
Mm.
because I know they'll face it. Then of course the next step is you have to go to school and meet the parents of the person who was bullying your kid.
Mm.
So I usually tell them, okay, don't bring the parents first. Let me meet the kids first.
I see.
So yeah, so whenever I go to meet those kids first, I don't even shout at them or do anything. We just have a good time. I play with them, and at the end of the day, they even tell me, "Hey, I wish some kids, I wish my dad was like you." Now
Mm.
they realize it's not about skin color; it's just being
Just
human to each other.
yeah.
So by the time the parents come, we're all friends. So it
Mm.
used to be a process of first talking to my kids, talking to the other kids.
And then the
Of course,
parent.
kids get, and then the parents, and then it just works out like that. Because I
Wonderful.
thought if I go in an aggressive way, why are you bullying? Why is your kid bullying my kid? I'm telling the kid why he doesn't understand where he's coming from.
Yeah.
All right,
Very.
this is Japan. That is a fact. This is Japan. It's a very homogeneous society. They
Mm.
just know each other, so they need to accept and appreciate people from another part, and
I see.
also appreciate people of a different color.
Mm.
So that was kind of my approach to dealing with such things.
All right. We're going to
Yeah.
backtrack a little bit back to Ashley. Ashley, what were some of your challenges, prenatal, during birth, and after? As Fox has told us, he was there the whole way, but we know he wasn't the one pushing. So,
Definitely, I do not go to hospital. I don't like that side.
so what
I
was your
just stay
experience?
outside.
Ashley.
Uh, well, I would like to say that in terms of the service, the whole service, like the doctor and everything, I had a good experience. The system is very, very nice because I gave birth in a university hospital.
Mm.
Yeah, so I transferred from one hospital to the other. So they knew about my case and my situation, that I cannot speak Japanese and I cannot understand the things they were saying. So they tried by all means to accommodate me. And here they don't believe in the whole process of having an epidural to like reduce the pain and all.
Really?
Yeah, so I asked for one, and the doctor literally refused. They were like, no, there is nothing wrong with you. You don't have a complication.
Yeah.
So you have to feel the pain.
What?
Yeah, so it was a terrible experience for me.
Yeah.
Like the day I'll never forget.
I
Yeah,
think I've
so
just decided to reduce the number of kids that I want to have. Okay, go on.
yeah, so it,
I was there. So she asked for painkillers and they were like, no. So
Because I know my friends who have children, um, most anyway, I think our systems are just need revision, but a cesarean is much higher on the list than natural birthing because cesarean brings in more money to the hospital and to the doctor. So as soon as you're like, oh my goodness, that hurts a little bit, they're like, okay, should we do a C-section? And that is it. There are not very many doctors back home who will push you to, do naturally. So that is quite surprising for me.
Yeah, so here the thing is, you just don't request for a cesarean birth because you're afraid of the pain. It's reserved for special cases and special conditions only. So if there's nothing wrong with you, then definitely it's a natural birth with no epidural.
And
Yeah, so
actually, can
that
I
was
ask a question?
yeah.
Is there elective cesarean section in Japan? Can you go for an elective one? Like I want to have one. Can you discuss that with your doctor and go for it even if you're okay?
My understanding is that they don't do that unless if you have a medical emergency or you have a medical complication which may affect your health or the baby's health during birth. So in my case, I was as fit as a fiddle, and then they said no C-section, no epidural. Yeah, so it was terrible.
Oh my God.
Terrible. That's how that's how straightforward and good the system is. Because unlike back home, the doctor will say have section because it's more money. Here, whether more money or not, there is no section for it. And also, I was grateful for the child care I received in hospital because it was like I was in a hotel. Fatu can attest to that. The service was excellent. The food was amazing. And insurance, like the national health insurance, right? So the insurance paid about almost 3/4 of my hospital bill, and I paid the remaining fraction, which it was still on the high side, but it was affordable compared to if I didn't have any health insurance. So I would like, I think that I received more than I paid for, like in terms of service and the care that I was given. And also, it's quite different from back home because in the hospital, they'll give you everything you need from like a bag full of baby products for free. So it was quite an amazing time for me. When it was time for me to go home, I just sat down and cried and wished they would keep me for a week because it was an amazing experience for me. I just wasn't ready to go home. Yeah.
You wanted to stay in the hotel a little longer.
Yeah.
I guess back home usually we experience after giving birth you go back home like maybe 2-3 days if you don't have any complication. But in Japan, I think they hold you until like a week later. They show you how to take care of the baby and all of those things so that they get you ready somehow. Yeah.
So Fox, were you also like, did you also have sessions with your wife on how to take care of the baby, or it's just the mother who's taught?
Usually it's the mom. Yeah, but you have to stay. She had to stay for about 3 or 4 days, and I was wondering why, because she looked good enough. I wanted to take her home. Maybe she had the same experience that she was having a good time. Yeah, just to backtrack a little, on the C-section thing, all of my kids have had C-sections,
Oh, really?
and it's because of complications. The first one was not facing down; it was kind of facing up in the womb, so there was no way it was going to come out. So that one was a C-section. The other ones had the umbilical cord around his neck. So that had once you have a C-section, I guess all the others have to have a C-section. So, well, yeah, as she says, if it's a very special case, it becomes a C-section.
Okay.
Then, of course, the place is very, very good. I used to go there to have see my wife have been pampered, and
Mm-hmm.
they make for you all these gifts, and they write your name on. They frame some good pictures,
Mm.
and of course, yeah, you can understand why they don't want to go home. The food is good, but I cook very well. I don't know
Mm.
why they didn't like my food. Yeah, but yeah, it's a good experience, and it costs about 500,000,
Mm.
but
Okay. Half
it
million
only
yen?
yeah, but you only end up paying about 450,000. So the
Mm.
insurance system, yeah, that was pretty good. Just to give you some numbers
I see.
to show
And
that,
just
yeah. Mm,
to throw more light on that, I think back
mm,
home usually when someone gives birth,
mm.
people will come, your entire clan and village, people you went to primary school with, they will all come and crowd your bed and see the child and all these things. In Japan, it's different. When I
No,
went to
it's the same.
when I is it hospital to hospital?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
my friend was in Kyoto University Hospital,
Mm.
but we were not allowed to get into the place where the mothers were. They had like some sort of waiting room. So if you wanted to go
Uh,
see her, they would call her out. Then you guys would sit in a room and talk. You were not allowed inside like the ward where the other mothers were. And when it was time for her to breastfeed, they would come pick her and take her to the room where the babies are.
okay.
Is
I
Yeah,
guess
that
in that,
is that hospital to hospital or?
that's a
I
big
think
hospital, I guess.
Um,
I
Mm,
think
the
well there are some slight variations in
mm,
their how they do things. Yeah, but well, in my case, people could visit, but
mm.
there weren't so many people to visit anyway. So, so you'd find that in one visiting hour, it was probably Fatu only, or some ladies from my host
uh,
family.
mm,
Yeah. And then the lady who translated during my labor only visited me once. Yeah, so I was okay with like not having so many visitors. Although it was quite weird at some point, I kept thinking that my husband was just gonna come. Like in my mind, I was thinking I'm at home, so I was expecting him to come.
I see.
I
Ah,
happened twice during the visiting hours. I kept anticipating that he's coming, and then suddenly the visiting hour is finished, and then he's not here. And then I'll be like, oh, I'm in Japan, so he can't come. So I think
Um,
it's just one of those psychological moments
mm,
where, after birth thingy. So
all right. So after you had Fox and Ashley, after you had your kids, how was it finding nursery schools? Because as you've mentioned, there are no maids. There are no maids in Japan. For some people, they're lucky that they might have grandparents. The Japanese usually, have grandparents to help. But even then, those ones, they don't like you can only take the kids there over the weekend, but during the week, if you're working or if you're a student, you have to take the kids to the nursery school. How easy or hard was it to find nursery schools for your children?
okay. Well, in terms of nursery school, I'll say that there's a process that's what makes it difficult. Because unlike back home, you just go to a school and you're like, I want this school, talk to the principal, and then suddenly you get the place. But
Mm,
here, it's different because private schools are very, very expensive. So if you want to apply in like a public school, you have to apply through the ward office. So it's a process, and then you have to go on the waiting list, and then you have to wait for the response and all the anxiety that will be building up. So I think the waiting process was the most difficult part for me. But my university had a nursery school, but the
uh,
problem was that it was so expensive. I was like, okay, for example, I think it was around 50,000 yen for 6-month-old baby. So to me, it didn't make sense to take her to such a school. So then I had to do the whole process of applying at the ward office, and then I ended up getting something for. It's a really good school. It's sort of private, but it's also public. It's confusing, but it's a really good school. I ended up doing that one for about 18,000 yen.
Oh, wow.
You see the difference. So it's a matter of applying and waiting and just hoping things will turn out. Yeah. So
Did you get a chance to go visit the different schools you applied for, to check out their facilities?
yeah, I did, but you know what happened? I wanted one school, like I wanted this particular school that's just across the road from my lab. Yeah, well, I visited that one and I was like, this is the one. By fire, by force. This is the one.
Right.
So I just applied to that one and I prayed
Mm.
for me for us to be accepted. And fortunately for us, we were accepted, and I was so happy. It's a really good school.
I see. Fox,
I'm
what
happy.
about you?
Yeah, it's
Do you
as
have
she says,
any
it's
preferences or anything like that?
not really. The Japanese kindergarten is very, very. They're pretty good. Even the basic government kind of stuff are very good. So there's a difference. There's a nursery and there's a daycare center.
Mm.
They call them a hoikuen and yochien. So for working mothers, you do the daycare until your kid can go to school until 6 or 7 p.m.
Okay.
And the other one is a nursery school where the mom is a housewife, so they go to school until 2 or 3. So the one Ashley's talking about is the tough one, the daycare one, where both of you are working. So if both of you are working, they kind of give you a high priority
Okay.
within your area so that your kid can be accepted, and they accept from 1 month old.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, so for at least my wife had no qualms about that, so we just took them. Some people want to stay with their kids for 6 months or about a year before they send them to school.
Yeah.
Well, and as you say, the Japanese tradition, my kids were born in my wife's rural area. So whenever she's giving birth, we have to travel to a place called Niigata, which is good for me because they give birth there. The rural Japanese area is kind of Africanish in the community-based feeling.
Okay.
So they want to take care of the kid. I said, you can have them. So they usually stay there for about a month. I come back to Osaka and I have just 1 month of kind of freedom. But I prepare for them. So by the time they come back, I'd applied for the nursery schools and everything. So in that sense, it was a smooth transition. But yeah, they're quite pricey, and they base it on your income. So they'll calculate how much you earn. Then I think they calculated Ashley's based on her scholarship, I guess. So that's why it was as an income. So it becomes very expensive. And that's for me. It was over 50, of course, because I've got 2 kids in the nursery at one time. But now, because of the shrinking population in Japan, it's becoming cheaper. So if you give birth now, Murungi and Fatu, you're safe. Right now, it's close to zero. They've got a new policy out there.
So, Fox, is your wife working?
She's working, yeah.
So, I had a friend who was doing lab work. She got pregnant and gave birth to her baby, and she was not given any sort of what do they call it, maternity leave. Is that normal in Japan? There's no maternity leave, so to speak.
There's maternity. There's no paternity for the fathers as such. It depends on the company, actually.
Okay.
So it's a new thing in Japan. The banks, the private companies are trying to incorporate it. Otherwise, people in Japan, it was just if you get a baby, you quit your job and go look after the kids. In that
Right.
sense, there was no maternity leave here. But now the society is changing and trying to encourage mothers to work and give birth at the same time. That's why they're lowering the school fees, bringing in maternity policies, and also paternity. The fathers
Right.
are fighting for paternity leave right now.
Yeah, thanks to that minister. What's his name? I really like that guy. Minister
Koizumi.
Yes, that one. I
He's
think he's a to reckon with.
yeah. So it's changing in that sense. But traditionally, yeah, you get a baby, you quit,
I see.
stay home and look after the kids. Yeah.
So, Kerry, for you, you came all the way from Kenya. Your kids were probably in a certain grade when they arrived in Japan. So, did you think they'll be put in a lower or higher grade? What were their challenges? Because I mean, they had to learn Japanese, finding schools, all these things. How
Uh,
did you how did you manage?
okay, one good thing, Japan is like really organized, so I didn't do a lot of work like when it okay pertaining like looking for schools and all that. The first thing you do is you register at the city office. Yeah, so when we registered the kids, they told us like we have an appointment at the city office to talk to the education officials. So we get to the city office. They were so organized. They had an English translator. They even had a Swahili translator.
Whoa,
So
nice.
yeah, so we got there. We
So you had
talked.
no excuse for not understanding what they were saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we got there. Of course, like back in Kenya, like you don't get government services in such a manner. So we had an appointment. I was really shocked. We went to the city office and there was like a panel of 6 people, waiting to talk to us. And
Wow.
yeah, they talked about the education needs of our kids and what we want. Uh, they made an appointment for us to visit the school where our kids were supposed to go. Okay, so my youngest was 4 years old then. So at 4, he was supposed to go to Yuchi, and that's the Japanese kindergarten. Yeah. So we went to the schools, and the kids were evaluated. Yeah. So my oldest was supposed to be in the 5th grade. Yeah. So the Kenyan syllabus and the Japanese syllabus was a bit different, and at least the Japanese syllabus was ahead of the Kenyan syllabus. So my kid had to like go back to the 4th grade, yeah, a grade behind, yeah. And also he didn't have any Japanese, so it was important for him to go a grade behind, yeah. For my youngest, he was going to the kindergarten. He hadn't even gone to the kindergarten in Kenya, yeah. So he hadn't gone to preschool, so that was okay. He was a blank piece of
Yeah.
paper, so yeah, so that was easier. Yeah, so yeah, they started school, and man, wasn't it a challenge? it
Can
was a,
imagine.
it was a big challenge, yeah. No language, yeah.
I remember seeing you holding your little one, just behind here. Like I'd see you some mornings, like before we met. I'd be
At
like,
your house, yeah.
yeah, I'd be like, but who's that woman, Who is she? And I would see you walking up to, you gather with the mothers. They usually have small talk. How were
Yeah,
you handling the whole small talk when at the moment you had no, like, as you said, you were blank,
yeah.
language almost zero? How did he, get in rhythm with the other kids?
Okay, one thing, kids adapt like too fast. They adapt really quickly, yeah. So, okay, so these are 2 kids, yeah. The
Mm.
one in preschool, it was pretty hard. He just didn't know. He had no idea of what's going on. He didn't know what the teachers were saying, nothing, like. But the good thing, he just enjoyed himself. Like he was doing anything, things he wants to do, like if the teacher is in class, he'd go out and play soccer, like he had no idea what they were talking about, yeah. And my eldest was pretty quick, to learn the language.
Mm.
And the city we live in, I don't know, Ashley, do you live in Mino?
No, I am in Osaka City.
Osaka City.
Sweeter.
Osaka City.
Osaka. Ah, really?
Mm.
Okay, so the city we live in Mino, they give extra support to foreigners, so they give like they're like special classes for Japanese as a second language.
Mm.
Foreign kids, and they're taught culture, they're given space to be themselves, and they have like a teacher who shadows them, like a language teacher who explains everything that is happening. Yeah, so yeah, in that sense,
I have a question. Like,
lucky. Yeah.
how were you able to adapt to your kids going to a Japanese school, speaking Japanese, and then coming home and speaking Japanese to you when you don't know much Japanese? Like,
I still my Japanese is zero, yeah. So my eldest is 16, yeah, so his English is actually pretty good, so it's pretty decent, and yeah, we communicate in English. But my kids and my husband actually speak to each other in Japanese, yeah. So the three of them communicate in Japanese.
wow.
But I speak actually, I speak English to them, yeah. But my youngest really doesn't have good English, yeah. So yeah, I try to speak to him in English, and when we can't communicate, like my eldest or my husband is going to translate, or I'm gonna use the Google Translator, you know.
Oh, that
Yeah,
is something.
yeah.
See, I'm glad you really didn't face any challenges finding schools for your kids because I have a friend who, I don't know, maybe, because we really don't get a lot of information when you come. I don't know if we don't look for the information or something like that. So this lady, she came, started asking around for schools. I think she thought you just go to a school and, ask for information. So one of the principal of the school asked her, about her child and all. And the principal had some very strong remarks. She said, if your daughter is not as light skinned as you, I'm afraid your child might scare our kids. So you might have to look for another school.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. So,
In
so
Japan?
yes, in Japan, she was really devastated. And for a while, she considered just going back home because she's like, yo, if my child is not going to be accepted, what am I even doing here? You
Wow.
know, you,
I have a question for Carrie.
Ah, about okay. So one thing about the Japanese system is it's very organized. Yeah, the school system. Yeah, and you can't just go to any school. You have like the school districts. Yeah, so you've got to start. Like, I think this is good information to have in the podcast, so that anyone who comes to Japan with their kids, you can try and extrapolate this knowledge and help yourself. Yeah, so
mhm,
you have to go to the city office first, yeah, and they're supposed to tell you where your kid is gonna go, yeah. So they organize depending on your address, yeah. Your Every school is organized into school districts, yeah. So you don't go to any school, and I think the Japanese schools have come a long way. Yeah, the discrimination is really on the down and low. Especially teachers are not ignorant about this. Yeah, they're very sensitive to kids who are different to
mm,
Japanese kids. Yeah, because if your kid faces discrimination of any kind, teeny tiny, maybe they were playing and a kid threw a word around, they didn't even know what was happening. They weren't even aware this was discrimination. Yeah,
mm,
they yeah, the teachers are gonna call you immediately. They're gonna tell you what happened to your kid, and they ask you how you want to solve it. If you wanna meet the parent or something like that. Yeah.
mm,
So yeah, I think that's quite a stranger experience for your friend. Yeah, yeah. But I've not experienced that myself. I also don't think Foxy has. I haven't
mm.
experienced that. Yeah.
Foxy, have you, apart from, what you told us earlier?
No, probably, as she says, that must have been an isolated case
Mm,
where that was an opinion of a single person,
Single.
and your friend was unfortunate to take that as the standard.
Mm,
So yeah, probably this podcast will help people realize that yeah, the discrimination has really shrunk. Japanese are accepting more people, and
mm,
I've been here for about 19, close to 20 years.
mm,
So most of the people who came during my time and have kids of a mixed marriage, and the kids are now my age, like 16 to 20.
mm,
Most of them are now taking the limelight on TVs. Like the Miss Japan was also a kid of half marriage. They're excelling in sports. They're in the States representing Japan, people like Osaka for the tennis. So
mm.
now these kind of kids are coming, people or kids of mixed marriages, or kids like
Hashim.
Terry's kids who have grown all the way in Japan and representing Japan, now have been accepted as part of mainstream society. It will take them time, but the awareness is there and it's
Mm.
growing. So yeah, they can't run away from it, and I'm glad they're changing with it. And they've put these systems in place to help, as Kerry says, combat those isolated cases of in case of discrimination comes. And
See.
at the end of it, also how the parents will be able to react to it.
What are some of the aspects back home that you really like, you badly wish for? Like, I don't know. I don't know about your situation, Fox, but for Carrie and Ashley, I know you probably think like, oh, I wish maybe my kids could be able to see their other cousins, their aunties, and blah blah blah. What are some of those aspects, general African things that you really wish were here?
I mean, also learning your local language, also probably.
Yeah, that too. Learning their local languages and stuff.
Yeah, actually,
Oh, there's nothing.
okay. Ashley, do you wanna go first?
No, you can start while I'm thinking. I got
Okay, so my kids were in Kenya before, yeah, but okay,
Okay, while you're thinking, Fox,
there's some
and there are some of the things, you look back in your childhood and you're like, I would like for my kids to have been able to experience this. If I had the power, I would want them to experience this in Japan.
I mean, probably there is none because